Listener discretion is advised. The RPGeek Podcast is made by friends with varying opinions, political, and religious beliefs. Nothing we say should be taken as an attack on anyone or anything in particular. In addition, we like to say naughty words and make jokes that may come off as offensive to some people. Please enjoy.
Welcome to the RPGeek Podcast. I'm your host, Dave, and once again, I'm joined by my buddy, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm doing swell. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
What have you been up to?
Because of you, I played through the entirety of the first Mass Effect in, like, a day.
And you dominated it money-wise, game-wise, everything. Now, may I mention, which you were probably going to, but this is my first playthrough of Mass Effect in the entire series as a whole, because I've never played it before, and I am having a blast.
Yes, I think one of the things I want to do is once you finish your playthrough, we'll have an episode that I just kind of you give your thoughts on the first one.
I'm going to be so mad because there's already been a couple events that have made me so mad.
Yeah. So I don't know if you need to take notes with what you're doing or if they just stuck in your mind, but when you finish your playthrough, because you're pretty close from what
I'm taking my time. Yeah. I'm definitely doing all the side missions because I did have the understanding going into it that the storyline is actually quite short.
Yes.
So I'm trying to absorb the game to its fullest for what I can before just doing the storyline because, you know, I don't need to beat the game in like 3 hours and be like, well, it was a game.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm excited for your thoughts on it. The bits that I've heard already are great, but I hadn't played that game since it came out, really.
Well, it was funny because I of course escaped the world by playing video games like most of us do, and I had a very frustrating, anger-ridden day one day, and I decided to get on Mass Effect, and my character turned straight into a renegade. At that point, I was just like, I hate you, you're going to die, I don't care, go fuck right off. Like, that's just how it became, and I was like, wait a minute, this isn't me.
Yeah, you're not me.
My character ate a Snickers, and he was all good.
Yeah. Your character looks like Scott Stapp, by the way. It with a buzz cut. It's pretty great. But that's not why we're here today. That'll be why we're here in the future.
Yeah.
And since Mass Effect has 3 games, we'll do it 3
I have
times.
a feeling the end of the series, I am going to probably be angry.
Oh, you might. We'll see.
I might.
Yeah, we'll reserve judgment until then. But you did send me a article that is from The Gamer. It's by Isaiah McCall, and it's 15 ripoff video games that are better than the originals and 15 that are worse. And I mean, look, it's who doesn't like divisive comments like that? I don't think we've shied away from them, but I think imitation is the highest form of flattery. And when it comes to video games, why not? Why not imitate a successful video game and see what you can get out of it? So we'll go through. There's 30 of these. We'll go through and we'll kind of give our we're not going to read the whole article. We're just going to
just give our thoughts.
We're just going to give our thoughts on the titles and things like that. So, do you want to start off with the first one?
Yeah, sure. So, according to this article, better than the original, it is Fortnite being better than the original version or original release of PUBG, which I know you had made a comment upon it that you can bring up, but I have a small disagreement with this.
Yeah, sure.
Because, I feel like they're two completely different games. Don't get me wrong. If you're saying better than the original by how big Fortnite got versus PUBG, 100% would agree with it. Fortnite took the world by storm. PUBG kind of fell quite a bit. I mean, there's still a kind of a cult following for it. but it did fall under. Now, this was also the era that I tried to stay away from in every aspect, which was the Battle Royale era, where everything under the sun had to be a Battle Royale.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if you were just like a set of condiments in the fridge, you had to fight to the death.
I would play that. Condiment Royale sounds awesome.
And I also feel like this got heavily sparked by the missing hole of Hunger Games, because I think the Hunger Games era just had like ended or was just ending around the time that the Battle Royale games got really big. Obviously, Battle Royale games are heavily inspired by the concept of just, put people on an island until there's nothing left. But PUBG and Fortnite are very different in the aspect of, like, I don't want to say realism, but in some ways it's true, where you have more of a modern take on PUBG, more almost kind of feeling DayZ-ish with a little bit of comedy. But then you had Fortnite, which is just a sheer, I'm not going to say kids game, but allowable for like all audiences. And so, but and that's the thing, like, but Fortnite went above and beyond whatever like PUBG was, made. But I don't think PUBG was ever kind of going the route of like the trendy dances and the different skins and all that stuff. So that's where I kind of disagree a little bit. I think where they started had completely different directions.
Yeah, I would say in the sense that they're both Battle Royale games, and based on success, yes, Fortnite is better than PUBG. However, Fortnite didn't start off as a Battle Royale. Fortnite originally was going to have a story mode and everything, just the Battle Royale was so big that they just decided, well, you know what, this is what people want, and it kind of blew up because of it. Now Fortnite has had collaborations with everything under the sun.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
the latest is Star Wars.
Latest is Star Wars with AI Darth Vader, which is causing some sort of controversy about James Earl Jones, which is stupid because he wanted this to happen.
Yep.
But PUBG kind of took the DayZ and Arma, like, more serious kind of battle royale thing, and they rolled with it. There was some goofy bits, like the frying pan, the winner chicken dinner, like kind of thing. But at its core, PUBG is a traditional battle royale.
Yeah.
But Fortnite did the building thing. It has the goofy, cartoony kind of graphics and the weird pickaxes and things like that. So I don't disagree with this one, but I'm with you. I don't entirely agree with it.
Yeah, I think just the creative direction and where these games were going is what makes me disagree with it. Because I feel like they had two different, completely creative directions. But I feel like in the end, I agree because Fortnite did just overshadow.
Yeah, in terms of success, Fortnite 100%. In terms of what, that's correct. Yeah, in a way.
Now, do you want to go with our first ridiculous ripoff?
I'll do the weird one. I didn't even know that this exists.
I didn't know this was a thing either.
The ridiculous number 29 out of our countdown of 30 is Garfield Go, which is a ripoff of Pokemon Go. You know what? I constantly ask the comments to do things which very rarely we get. Did anybody know that this existed? Neither one of us knew.
Reading a part of the description just makes this even more funny, but instead of tossing Pokeballs, you toss slices of lasagna at Garfield.
Look, to be perfectly honest with you, if somebody, it's the actual quote is, instead of tossing Pokeballs at Pokemon, you throw slices of lasagna at Garfield while he lets out various assortments of moans. To be honest, if you threw lasagna at me, I'd probably I'd be like, oh yeah, lasagna.
But like, how many characters are you collecting in the world of Garfield?
I mean, you have Garfield, you have Odie, you have Nermal, you have John, and I've run out of characters.
And you have lasagna.
And yeah,
I mean, you might be able to catch Bill Murray.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's a different Garfields. Are you going to get Chris Pratt, baby Garfield in there? Like, what? That's silly. I don't know. Yeah.
The next one I think we both have experience with, SimCity.
Yeah.
So better than the original SimCity versus Utopia. I think SimCity was a great game. I think it was a really, really great game. Better than Utopia? I don't know. To be honest, I didn't have a ton of experience with Utopia, but I know SimCity was a fantastic game. I would have never imagined it was actually a ripoff to something.
Well, so you got to remember, Utopia came out in 1981. So SimCity, I think the original one came out in like 93 3 or something like that.
Yeah. So at that point, would it make it just a completely different thing at that point?
No, because it's the same formula.
Okay.
It's a city builder at its core. And it might have been later than 93. It might have been like 94. I can't remember. Early 90s was the original SimCity. And SimCity, of course, it's better. You went from a game in 1981 to, you've learned from that. You've moved on.
Yeah.
That's not a good comparison. I'm gonna actually detract points from this article for that, because yes, technically it is true that SimCity is better than Utopia, but if you put SimCity up against City Skylines, SimCity falls short every time.
I still like SimCity.
So
in comparison to City Skyline, I still like SimCity.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
But like if you took
where the features
are and everything.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I love the Super Nintendo SimCity. I think that was number one, it had great music.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
No, this is a dumb one.
But a ridiculous ripoff of Bubsy versus Sonic. Sonic being the main game in this game called Bubsy being the ripoff.
Yeah.
I am not all too familiar with this one.
You're not?
I am not familiar with Bubsy.
Lucky
actually.
you. So Bubsy is a cat, and he doesn't shut the hell up. Let's just put everything on the table. Bubsy sucks. But the only reason Bubsy is a ripoff of Sonic is because the game moves very quickly.
Oh, okay.
The problem is Bubsy dies in one hit, and for a platformer, you have fall damage.
Oh, what?
Why does a platformer have fall damage? It's really stupid.
Yeah.
But more so than that, Bubsy just doesn't shut the hell up. That's the biggest problem with Bubsy, is the gameplay plays like butt, and he won't stop talking. It's bad. Yes, Bubsy was a bad ripoff of Sonic, but at the time, you gotta remember, at the time that Bubsy came out was the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis era. Everyone had their platformer. Every major company was trying to come out with a platforming mascot to take center stage.
Would you compare it to being as big, if not bigger, than like the whole era of the battle royales we just talked about, where everybody and their mother was dropping one?
Yes, it was definitely bigger.
Okay.
There were so many platformers out there that we could do an entire episode on platformers.
Okay.
Like and we might even have to cut it into 2 episodes. That's how many there were at this time. The one thing with Bubsy is, while his games really sucked balls, they kept making them. There was the first one, Bubsy in Claws Encounters of the Furred Kind. Bubsy 2, Bubsy in Fractured Furry Tales, Bubsy 3D.
Okay.
And then they've had like 2 more since then. Bubsy had a long nap, and then he came back with more games. And true to Bubsy's form, the new game sucked ass too. But for whatever reason, people loved this character.
Kind of like cult following kind of thing.
Very much is.
Gotcha.
There's
nothing worse in a video game than a character that won't shut up. We've had immense experience with that playing together, and it's just like, stop it.
Yeah.
Please stop.
Yes. Please, for medieval Dynasty, just give me a shut up function for my character. I'm so tired of hearing how hot and how cold he is, and if he's thirsty.
I forgot what it's like to taste food.
Yeah. Just me too, man. I forgot what it's like to not want to jump off a bridge.
Now, do you have experience with the next one?
Farmville versus Farmtown is the next one. And I do. This was a Facebook game, I believe.
Yeah, Farmville. Farmville kind of, it started off as, I feel like it did start off as like an early generation Flash game, in that ended up on Facebook at a long time. But it ended up becoming a mobile game as well.
Yeah, I feel like at one point we just kind of sat there and I feel like everybody played this game.
Well, what was fun about Farmville is you could interact with your friends and like go to their farms and do all that, or you could have them buy your stuff you were selling and all that stuff. It almost kind of turned Facebook for a while into like this network of gaming. So
yeah, I remember this being a huge thing. I remember playing this with my exes and my friends on Facebook when I still had it. It was, look, man, people love farming games. If people didn't love farming games, we wouldn't have Stardew Valley. Yeah. So yeah, I to be honest, so I didn't look through this whole list beforehand. To see a Facebook game on here was that kind of threw me off.
Farmtown, I did play a little bit. It was a old Flash game kind of thing. Very, very almost featureless, kind of like the old school SimCity, or like Roller Coaster Tycoon. You built the farm.
Yeah.
Like there's really not much to say about it. You could, what was kind of cool, even though it's not really 3-dimensional at all, there was still terraforming.
Okay.
So you could terraform like parts of the land, which was kind of neat. You could run rivers and all that stuff. It was neat for what it was. You know, if you were bored after school, you know, as a 7-year-old and you hopped on to like a Flash game website, it was neat.
Yeah, and you weren't playing RuneScape.
Yeah.
The next one is Killer Instinct, which is a ripoff of Mortal Kombat.
I liked Killer Instinct.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how much, because if you go into actual Mortal Kombat, like it has like a lore, it has a storyline, it has.
yeah, that's the thing is I don't agree with this one in the sense that what's the reasoning why you would consider this to be a shameless ripoff? Is
Apparently
it because it's
was
a
just
violent?
No, it's just a
fighter?
heavy amount of inspiration that was drawn between characters, and because you can't compare it to the fighting industry, because you got games like Streets of Rage, Street Fighter, Virtual Fighter. If you're gonna say every single one of those was a knockoff of Mortal Kombat, then
That's the thing. It's like Mortal Kombat was a violent knockoff of Street Fighter. So it's like, yeah, I mean, look, you can't. I don't agree with this one because fighting games are fighting games. If at one point you have a character that's a skull and a character that's a werewolf, like that's totally different than now if it was like Primal Rage where it was the dinosaurs and stuff like that, maybe, but still that's just another fighting game. Like I don't agree with this one.
And the next one, I'm not 100% agreeing with this one either.
Okay.
As much as I'm a fan of the Forza series, comparing it to be better than the original of Gran Turismo, Forza was strictly a console exclusive. You can't really compare the two if they're purposely made for different platforms. And as Gran Turismo was an earlier game, you could argue that EA sports games were even earlier. You could go back to the Need for Speed games. You could, you can compare apples to oranges all you want. But technically, by my definition, I don't think it was a ripoff of Gran Turismo as much as it was a competition to Gran Turismo.
Yeah, I think Gran Turismo kind of had it over Forza in the sense that you had to unlock different licenses.
Yeah.
That was kind of a neat feature.
It was.
Which eventually I think they got rid of in the later Gran Turismos. But I would say that Forza, in the sense that Forza would be over Gran Turismo, was if you look at that original Forza, which, I mean, if you look at Forza now, it's even better. But like that original Forza, when that first came out and you were able to look at the insides of the car and the amount of detail and how gorgeous the models were in that. Okay, you have a point there. But as Forza went on with like the Horizon and stuff like that, and I'm gonna get crucified for this, but Forza Horizon just kind of, out of all the Forza games, just got really almost goofy.
It did.
And versus Gran Turismo, which was just for the longest time just cars. It was just about the cars. It was just about the race and things like that. And then Forza was like that for a bit, and then they kind of branched off.
Like the first Horizon, maybe even the second Horizon, still kind of kept the heart of like what motorsports was looking for. It was more about the cars than like, you have to adventure here, you have to adventure there, look at all this adventure. And it's like, I'm not playing Forza to play an RPG. I'm playing Forza to drive my car. But then also, like most games in the modern time, they just got ridiculous. With not and I also hate this part is I don't think it was Turn 10, but it was probably Microsoft's idea to put like a lot of the packs behind paywalls. And that was just like, are you guys turning into modern EA at this point? I mean, it's just like everything is like a Porsche pack behind a paywall. You can buy this pack for $8 and get 5 cars. Like, come on. Like,
I think part of that's licensing and part of it's greed. I think that's really what it boiled down to.
But my forever favorite Forza game will be Motorsport 2 of all time. Like, that is my favorite.
I think mine was the third one. I can't remember. It was either the second or the third one. I enjoyed. On to the next one. Ridiculous ripoff, according to this. Kirby's Avalanche
versus Puyo
Puyo. Now, I love Puyo Puyo and I love Kirby. This is a weird comparison because it's not a ripoff. It's just it's a similar gameplay game. It's like, I wouldn't consider this a ripoff. It's I guess in the sense that it's not actually a Puyo Puyo game, you could call it a ripoff, but the gameplay works exactly the same. It might as well be. That's like saying that Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine is a ripoff of Puyo Puyo. No, it's the same the same shit. I don't know. Did you ever play these types of...
I didn't really. For me, it was just, like, I was never really big into like the puzzly style games.
Yeah,
just,
like Tetris Tetris and things like that.
It was just, I'm not smart enough for that.
Dude, I would say if you are looking for something super entertaining, watch Tetris tournaments.
Okay.
They will make you feel stupid because your brain can't comprehend what you just watched. It's awesome.
The next one, better than the original Angry Birds versus Crush the Castle. Now, I had many, many, many hours on Crush the Castle. I 100% disagree with this statement. Bigger? Yes. Better? No. The Crush the Castle was a phenomenal Flash game that I played on Addicting Games, and man, this game was so fun, and there was a sense of like actual violence to it. Like you could watch people get impaled and like actually like just get beheaded and stuff by the damage that you would do
versus popping pigs.
Yeah, versus popping pigs. But the thing about what I loved about Crush the Castle was instead of you having to collect all these different style birds and use them and be like tactician, you got a smaller rocks or bigger rocks. Like you picked your poison at that point, or you get to set your rocks on fire. Like I mean I can see that. Like I don't know if Angry Birds even took inspiration from this game. This was just a mediocre Flash game, to be honest. But it was so phenomenal. Like the amount of hours that I spent on this, because should I have been playing it at 6-7 years old? Probably not. Just with this sheer amount of violence in it. But honestly, I almost think that the physics are better in Crush the Castle than Angry Birds.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. This was this one I never had the opportunity to play. I did play Angry Birds, but the notion of doing Angry Birds style gameplay, but with like an actual like medieval castle, I don't know. That just sounds better to me.
It was fun. You could choose between a small rock, 3 small rocks, medium rocks, big rocks, flaming rocks. All that changed was the size of the rock that you got. It was just so simplified. You didn't have to. You have one bird that flew over and you had to time it right to drop something, or you launched one, you had to hit a boost at the right time. It was just like, no, make sure you aim it. It was like the Bowman games.
Yeah.
Addicting games where you just shoot the arrow, it launches across the screen, hits the other person. It was like that, but just different size rocks.
Yeah.
And then the castles would get a little bit more intricate, so you had to learn how to, take down like buildings, essentially. It just became, it was just fun. Like, it was just fun. It didn't have to get all paywalled and like turn into a movie. Like, come on.
I don't know, man. I'd probably watch a Crush the Castle movie.
I would watch Crush the Castle movie 100%. I mean, you watch that every time you watch a medieval movie and they burn the city down. Like, but yeah, for me, like, like every time I launched a rock at one of those castles, I felt like throwing chunks of Gondor, like from Minas Tirith at the orcs.
That's funny.
But like, with Angry Birds, like it was fun, but like, I don't know.
I think it just had more features and it was colorful, and that's why
it was pretty.
Yeah, I think that's why it was more popular.
But I will say that there was a long nap between Crush the Castle and Angry Birds, to be honest. It was probably like 4 or 5 years before those two
swapped. Yeah, Crush the Castle was 2009, so
okay.
Yeah, so it should be
so it was probably relatively
close.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was that new. I thought it was much older than that.
Yeah.
I thought it was like 2004.
Yeah, I mean.
But the next one you can take, because you might have an opinion about that one.
I've played this one. Number 21, Sonic Shuffle is a ripoff of Mario Party. Yes, it is. And I agree with the statement right here. It is a really, really bad game. I will say it is better than the... No, it's not. No, the Crash Bandicoot party game is still better than this, and that was a really bad game too. Yeah, Sonic Shuffle, it doesn't make sense. There's no mini games.
Oh.
It's just Sonic themed boards, and they're boring, and it's just it's crap. It's crap. It really is. If you're gonna play a Sonic game from this era, just play Sonic Adventure 1 or 2. Like it's awful.
I feel like the next one that we're about to run into, I have some controversy about, because it's like I agree with it, but I don't.
Yeah. So for number 20, it's Rock Band is better than Guitar Hero. So go ahead. What do you...
So for me, I feel like Guitar Hero, I 100% feel was just a great arcade game, if you were to put it at that. Like, I feel like you could just sit down, play with your friends, like all the competitions. I mean, Guitar Hero still going to this day of people playing the hardest songs blindfolded or something, right?
Yeah.
Like, it still goes, but Rock Band doesn't really much anymore. But with Rock Band, yeah, cool. You could actually involve your friends in a lot more than just, playing guitars next to each other. You had drums, you had a singer, you had bass, you had guitar. I think it was really fun. But do I think it's better than Guitar Hero? I mean, if you're comparing comparing it to a Guitar Hero Aerosmith where 40% of the songs are Aerosmith and the rest are just not actually Aerosmith, sure.
I mean, that's a high percentage for Guitar Hero Aerosmith, but yes.
But if you're comparing it to like Guitar Hero 3, Guitar Hero 2, I don't know. Like, I feel like they were just, they both came to the table with really fun gameplay, but they were very different at the heart of what they were trying to do. I almost felt like Rock Band was actually almost a more serious take on Guitar Hero.
Well, it definitely had the less goofy looking characters than Guitar Hero. You know, they kind of went for it was still like not realistic, but they went for a more realistic look to it. Look, I think that Guitar Hero was a really fun game. The fact that they, you know, still have like the arcade machines and stuff like that is really fun. But yeah, I gotta agree. I think Rock Band was better. I think being able to, because Guitar Hero, you had the 2-player and it was either co-op or versus, where, you know, one person was the guitar, the other one was the bass or whatever. But being able to sit down with either your whole family or a bunch of your friends and everybody picks an instrument or sings is a lot of fun. And as they went on, and they did go on, they oversaturated the hell out of their market.
Yes, they did.
Which is unfortunate. But as they went on, Guitar Hero took the instruments from Rock Band with, I think it was World Tour, added the drums and the singing and everything. So it's like, yes, at a certain point, Rock Band was more successful, but it was more successful because of Guitar Hero, not because...
I think they worked in unison in a way.
They definitely brought out the best and worst of each other.
Yeah, 100%. The only thing that I will say, and this is a stupid, in some aspects, like, comparison, but I did like the circles better than the rectangles. I did.
You know what? Hey, that's fine, I guess.
Yeah.
Honestly, it didn't bother me either way. All I know is now I can't play it without my hands starting to cramp.
Yeah. I've tried to here and there on like the arcade machines and stuff like that, and it's fun. I play a couple songs, but I feel like the amount that I used to play it as a kid, like it's just like the overeaten food. Like I can't do it for very long. Now you can lead us into this next one if you want.
Star Wars Dark Forces. This was a Doom clone back when everything was a Doom clone, but this one was awesome because it was Star Wars. It introduced you to Kyle Katarn, who in the expanded the now no longer existing expanded universe of Star Wars was part of the team that stole the Death Star plans and made it awesome.
Now, was this a LucasArts game?
This was LucasArts.
Okay.
So this person, the person writing the article, put this as a ridiculous ripoff. They're 100% incorrect. This ripoff was fine. It was a great game. I don't understand why you would call this a shameless ripoff and not include every other Doom clone that came out at the same time. Dark Forces was really good. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it's Doom. It's Doom from 1995. It's fun. Yeah. We enjoy Star Wars Dark Forces. We enjoy Duke Nukem 3D. We enjoy Chex Quest. We like those games. Quest. Those games are fun at their heart. I don't agree with the statement that this is a bad ripoff. It's a fine ripoff.
Yeah.
It's not better than Doom. It's not worse than Doom. It's just Doom with a different coat of paint.
Now, apparently better than the original was Bayonetta versus the original Devil May Cry. What is your opinion on that?
So, at the time that Bayonetta came out, Devil May Cry had already gone through three games. I think we might have still been waiting on Devil May Cry 4 at this point. They're very close, but you had Devil May Cry 1, 2, and 3. If you're comparing the first Bayonetta with the first Devil May Cry, yes, that it is a better game because Devil May Cry 2 and 3 happened. Devil May Cry is, if you look at Devil May Cry 3, Devil May Cry 3, and you compare it to the original Bayonetta, there's not that big of a difference between the two of them.
Gotcha.
The biggest difference is instead of a wacky woohoo pizza man, you have a sexy British witch lady.
Gotcha.
And, that's, and who fights with her hair. Like, it's, that's the difference. The gameplay themselves are very, very similar. And then once you get to Devil May Cry 4, Devil May Cry 4 is better than Bayonetta.
Gotcha.
When you get to Bayonetta 2 is better than Devil May Cry 4. When you get to DMC, it's...
So would you say they were constantly kind of like learning from each other? And
here's the thing, is like the guy who made it, Hideki Kamiya, made both of them.
Oh, okay.
So
he was competing with himself.
He just took everything that he learned and moved it on. And then eventually it culminated to Devil May Cry 5, which was absolutely fantastic.
Gotcha.
it's one of my favorite games.
Gotcha.
So I don't. It's not better than the original. It's the same game.
Okay.
It's just a sequel in a different universe. If that makes sense.
All right.
And unfortunately, for a while, we thought that there was going to be a crossover. We still kind of hope that there is at some point.
That'd be neat.
But
because I mean, if they made like if Devil May Cry 5 was that good, and you said there was no Bayonetta 3.
There is a Bayonetta 3.
Okay.
Bayonetta 3 was actually where it kind of seemed like there might have been a crossover.
Okay.
Because in Bayonetta 3, one of the demon monster things was a spider creature that looked eerily similar to the first boss of the original Devil May Cry, Phantom, which was a fire spider. It looked like an updated version of that, and it almost made you go, huh. And then in one of the cutscenes, you had a white-haired character in a fancy, leather outfit, and you're like, well, hold on now, like, is this going to be the crossover? Turns out it's not. There was no crossover, unfortunately, but they sure
they're kind of teasing at it.
They sure teased that, and Hideki Kamiya has said on multiple occasions that if he could get the rights to do it and get the teams together to do it, he would.
Okay.
But Bayonetta's Platinum Games, Devil May Cry's Capcom.
Okay.
That's a tough contracting decision.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
The next one. Do you have experience with the next one?
No, actually, this is the first that I've heard of this one.
So Nova being the ridiculous ripoff to Halo. Now, Nova was a mobile game.
Gotcha.
That essentially looked like Halo, and it played like Halo, and the guns looked like Halo. The maps were Halo. This was I am a big Halo fan, I'm gonna make my own game and see if it sticks kind of thing. But it just fell so short. The gameplay sucked.
I mean, it was a mobile game.
To begin with, but the gameplay sucked. I mean, they even had like their own version of Cortana, and it was bad. It was so bad, and this was around the time that I believe that Bungie had just left the project for Halo, which I believe was right after Reach. But it was bad, and it literally looked like somebody that, I get it, like fan projects and all that stuff, but I'm surprised that they didn't get a cease and desist from it, like how close it was.
Yeah, looking at this, it definitely looks like legally distinct Halo.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah,
it was bad.
Yeah.
All right.
Number 16. So we are just under the halfway point. This is better than the original Super Mario Bros. 2 versus Doki Doki Panic. No, Jesus Christ, no. It's the same fucking game. It's literally the same fucking game. It's not better than the original. It's the game. The difference is, instead of Mario and his friends, you play as festival characters for Doki Doki Panic. There's nothing different. Stop. Jesus. Just no.
Now, the next one of a ridiculous ripoff of being Fighter's History versus Street Fighter 2. Now, from a comment you made before, would you rather say the ridiculous ripoff is Mortal Kombat putting Street Fighter as the...
No. So this one, I kind of yes and no for the ridiculous ripoff. It's tough, right? Because we're at the halfway point.
Fighting games are very difficult.
But this isn't a fight. This is a beat 'em up.
Okay.
This is a side-scrolling beat 'em up. But graphically and, art style-wise, it looks like Street Fighter 2.
Okay.
So that's where the ripoff, quote-unquote, happens, is that it just looks like Street Fighter 2, but it's a beat 'em up.
And also, like, assets are, assets. They can be kind of limited, especially in the time frame.
Well, it's also, artists can have similar art styles.
Yeah.
It could be the same guy. This isn't a ripoff. This is a totally different game. It just looks similar.
Gotcha.
As for if the game is good or not, maybe. I don't know. It's fine. But, I mean, when you beat your opponent, like, because you have, like, one opponent at the end of the level, and when you beat the opponent, it does the, like, ooh, that Street Fighter 2 did.
Oh, okay.
But it's like, so what?
Yeah.
Maybe
it's just taking inspiration and turning a Street Fighter into a beat 'em up.
Look, there's a lot of very eerily similar character models in it, so it very well could just be a legally distinct, like, oh, these look like Street Fighter characters, but it's different enough.
Gotcha.
Do you like to feel energized? I know I do. I'm a bit of a caffeine myself. Do you want to feel like you can climb a mountain fresh out of bed? Or maybe stream for 12 hours without any internal lag? Well, you're listening to the right ad. But before I get into it, let's talk about jitters. Have you ever had an energy drink that leaves you just feeling fast but anxious? A drink that makes you feel like Dash from The Incredibles, yet vibrating apart like an old car? Well, not this one. Introducing to you Dubby Energy. Dubby Energy's special formulated blend of jitterless energy is made from coffee extract, a natural, clean, jitterless source of energy. You could scale walls, run across the ocean, maybe even fly, although we at the RPGeek Podcast recommend a parachute for that. They have flavors such as pomegranate blossom, peach, dragon fruit lemonade, even Grandpa's denture water. With all these great flavors to choose from, how would you not want to turn your brain into a supercomputer with all this clean energy? Right now, if you go to w.gg and use code RPGeek Podcast at checkout, you could get 10% off your next order. That's RPGeek Podcast at checkout. Or if you're trying to get it done in just one shot, type wdubby.gg/RPGeek Podcast. Again, that's RPGeek Podcast for 10% off your next order.
No, while W Energy tastes delicious and makes you feel good, it will not allow you to walk across water, scale walls, or fly. Please do not sue us if you do something stupid. Thank you.
Thank you to W Energy, and back to the show.
The next one, better than the original, Overwatch vs. Paladin. I have actually no experience with Overwatch at all.
Oh, it's okay.
So, I mean, if you wanna...
So, all right, yes, better than the original Overwatch versus Paladins. Yeah. Dude, Overwatch took the world by storm.
Oh, it really did.
And it was, keyword was, a fantastic team shooter with really, really great graphics, cool character models, and a interesting concept for the story in the back. And you can't talk about Overwatch without talking about the fact that it was there's a meme about Overwatch where people find out where people see the game and they're like, wow, they made a video game out of all that porn. Overwatch
yes, I have seen
Overwatch's popularity is because of porn. It's you have these really good character designs and people just kind of went, I can do this, and then the gameplay just happened to be very, very good. Paladins, it's kind of sucks. It is what the character designs weren't as good, the story wasn't as good, but I mean, realistically, it's Team Fortress 2, sort of.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. Like, you know, when I originally saw it, I was like, all right, just another team shoot 'em up, team deathmatch, general arcadey, like, you know, aspect. And then there's a few other ones out there that are just similar in some ways.
It is infinitely better than Battleborn. So.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, very.
But then you also had games like Brink that were, you know, once you played the multiplayer on Brink, it was very similar.
Yeah, but yeah, so Overwatch is a great game, was a great game. Now Blizzard needs to clean themselves up. They've been screwing around way too much. Hopefully they get their shit together.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this one.
I've never heard of Final Combat, but if
number
that's
13,
the image of it, then
number 13, a ridiculous ripoff, Final Combat. It looks
eerily similar.
It is Team Fortress 2.
Yeah, but it seems to be a Japanese language.
I think that's Chinese.
It might be,
but it
is graphically eerily similar. I mean, that's heavy.
That's a mixture of heavy and what's the other one? Engineer.
Yeah,
it looks ridiculous.
I mean, there's really not much to say about it other than that I would agree.
Yeah, it just looks really bad.
The next one I have some controversy about.
Yeah,
this next
number
one
12 is better than the original Battlefield versus Call of Duty. What do you think?
Okay, I think they are direct competitors.
Yes.
I don't believe that there was a ripoff really of anything. I think if you're going to make a war game, you're going to make a war game. If you're going to say that every time you made a war game that it's a ripoff of something, Call of Duty ripped off Medal of Honor. You know, so they're competitors.
Yeah.
They're competitors. Now, are some Battlefield games better than Call of Duty games? Yes. And some Call of Duty games are better than Battlefield games. If we compare it to, you know, Battlefield, 2043 right now or whatever, 2042, 2043, whatever that new one is, like, that's crap. But so is the MW3 remake.
And so is Black Ops 6 or whatever.
They're crap. I mean, they're turning to crap. Now, Battlefield honestly has a window of opportunity right now because of what Activision had just recently did. I'm going a little off the side, but with their announcement of teabagging is a bannable offense in their games.
More points for teabagging.
Now, with that advancement, I know they had been putting in filters and all this stuff, so we can never have an MW2 lobby again. Fine, whatever, get it to some extent. But to ban teabagging because it is offensive to the people that have died and makes them feel bad, please. Now, Battlefield has a real opportunity here to turn their shit around. DICE, if they can get, you know, their Frostbite engines back to, like, the old school of Frostbite engines, and I'm not saying graphically, but the way they maintain themselves, and don't ban teabagging, Battlefield has a real opportunity to outtake COD. Now, there's so many people that say there's COD killers coming out, Concord, and so many other games that came out were COD killers, killers. You're not, because Call of Duty has already...
Call of Duty's a COD killer.
They branded themselves into like eternity.
Yeah.
Battlefield, I don't feel like they've done that as much. I feel like they can be up there, but with the recent selections of FPS games, when you talk about Call of Duty, now Call of Duty, very much in my comparison to like Fortnite and stuff like that, is the hot thing. It's the big thing. It's the trendy thing. It's the game. So like, especially when you have a giant younger generation backing your game because they don't know the difference between a bad game and a good game, they just want to shoot something. Battlefield is missing the mark on that.
Yeah, I
feel like Battlefield is made for more than people that are just going after trendy, shooty, blah blah blah. Battlefield was a game that I felt that had the potential to be a COD killer, especially in the days of Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4. It had the potential, but now I feel like they're very falling under suit, where they're trying to go after the trendy aspect, but that's never what that game was supposed to be.
Yeah, I agree. I think, look, Call of Duty's a Twitch shooter. It's a game where you have to have extremely quick movements. You're sliding around, you're jumping over things, you're constantly, flicking your mouse all over the place. Battlefield was never that. Battlefield was go here, take care of this. It was very slow paced, and it felt good because it was very slow paced. You had the bullet drop. You had, all this other stuff that you had to keep track of. It was squad based. So even though you're part of a bigger team, your squad can do some damage, and you had these different things to control. Call of Duty's not that. They're not the same. They're not the same game.
No,
they are similar types of games. They each have deathmatch. They each have conquest. Capture the flag kind of things like that. But it's like, it's not. I'm with you. I don't agree that Battlefield is better than Call of Duty. I think Battlefield has the potential to be, but I also think that if you compare old Call of Duty and old Battlefield, like Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Battlefield 3 versus anything that's come out in the last 5 years, they're all fucking terrible.
Yeah, and I think Battlefield in DICE, if anyone's gonna touch Call of Duty, it's gonna be them. And because when they came out, like, they had games like, Battlefield 2, Battlefield 1942, which were, I feel like, great, fantastic games. In the same era of, like, when they put out, I think it was Battlefield 1942 in comparison to Call of Duty 3, like, it blew them out of the water. But then you had, like, to your point, Battlefield 3 on the same timeline as, like, Call of Duty 4.
Yeah.
That was the Xbox versus PlayStation battle right there.
That was Super Nintendo versus Sega Genesis.
And that's very much how I feel about Battlefield and Call of Duty. No, I don't think they're better than each other, and I also don't think that they're worse than each other in some aspects, but I feel like it's always been a war between them, where it's very Red Sox versus Yankees, Xbox versus PlayStation,
cats versus dogs.
Yeah, Battlefield and Call of Duty are those two.
Yeah.
So to name one better than the other, I can't think of an actual reasonable reason to.
Yeah.
But especially in the last 5 years, to agree with you.
I will say that if you take the number of games in the series, and then you compare the number of games for Battlefield versus the number of games of Call of Duty, and you take a statistical average on which games are good, games, Battlefield, because it has less games, technically has a higher percentage of good games.
And I also think they have, back when, I think they had a higher quality of games.
Yeah, but like Battlefield has less games than Call of Duty.
Yeah.
So if you're going purely on percentage of good games within that series, yes, Battlefield has more. But that's because Call of Duty comes out every year, and it's Madden with guns. It comes out every year.
Yeah.
So every time somebody's like, well, that one sucked, well, we'll just wait for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to skew your numbers a bit. But the games are the same.
Well, and that's what I got to give Battlefield, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but that's what I got to give Battlefield or COD, right? Is they have like this new game that didn't do well, but they also didn't turn around and be like, well, next November, like, they're actually probably building something better.
Well, I mean, look at Battlefield 4. When Battlefield 4 first came out, people fucking hated it. They were just shitting on this game. And this is awful. By the end of Battlefield 4's lifetime, it's considered one of the better Battlefields.
Yeah.
So like,
and then you also have, both companies have Legendary series.
Yeah.
Like, you have Bad Company series for Battlefield, but then you also have the Modern Warfare series, the original Modern Warfare series. Like, those are cemented in this ever-loving ground of will always be able to be playable. But then you just have this era of garbage. The one thing that I will give Battlefield that I haven't seen as much as, for sure, Activision is the paywall. And that is the one thing that I will give Battlefield, is not every single freaking thing is hidden behind a paywall.
Yes. However, you also have to give Activision this. Outside of the newest Black Ops, the servers for Call of Duty are so much better than the DICE servers.
They are. But they also developed a game mode which pretty much, unless Battlefield can retaliate in any form of way, sunk them hard, which was Warzone.
Yeah, they hopped on to, so that's the thing, is they hopped on to the Battle Royale thing, and people love Warzone. I played Warzone. I had a blast with it.
Yeah.
But Battlefield tried it with, I think it was like Firestorm or something like that, with Battlefield 5, whatever the World War II one was.
Battlefield 5. Yeah.
They tried and everybody hated it. It was really bad. But, meanwhile, Warzone, people are just like, fuck yeah, dude, let's go. Like,
there's so many pros and cons, gives and takes. You could go on for hours.
Yeah, we could have an entire series on Call of Duty versus Battlefield.
I would
alone.
love to do an episode on Battlefield versus COD.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a fun one.
Yeah, but moving on, number 11, ridiculous ripoff, Crash Team Racing versus Diddy Kong Racing. Have you played either of these?
I played Diddy Kong Racing.
Okay.
I did not play Crash Team.
Look, Crash Team Racing was fine. Yes, Diddy Kong Racing's better, but Diddy Kong Racing, hot take, better than Mario Kart 64. But at the end of the day, it's a kart racer. We've had them since Mario Kart. Mega Man had a kart racer back in the day. Everybody's had a kart racer. So,
especially Nintendo. Like, Nintendo characters, almost every single one of them had their own fucking proprietary
spin-off
kart racer.
Yeah. But Crash Team Racing better than Diddy Kong, or worse than Diddy Kong Racing? Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Yeah.
If it's better than Mario Kart Racing, it's probably going to be better than the knockoff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, going into number 10, our top 10, better than the original King's Bounty versus the Heroes of Might and Magic.
Yes. Have you ever played these?
I played Heroes of Might and Magic. I never played King's Bounty.
So, all right. They are, for those of you that don't know, they are fantasy tactical role-playing games. King's Bounty is very good. It's a beautiful game. I guess I would compare it to Heroes of Might and Magic. It's really tough, right? Because it's not like, I prefer the old school dungeon crawler Might and Magic games and Dark Messiah Might and Magic, which to this day still has some of the best physics in games, but that's because it was made with the Source engine. I guess. I mean, this one, I guess I agree with. King's Bounty is better than Heroes of Might and Magic.
Okay. Now, number 9. Now, to just start off with this. Now, number 9, before we go into it, regardless if you're playing one or the other, if you want to go back to those MW2 lobbies, or you want to come home from after a hard day of work and make sure your life is even harder, you play one of these games.
Yeah, so this is League of Legends versus Dota,
where the ridiculous ripoff is League of Legends.
And what do you think?
Very similar to my aspects of Fortnite versus PUBG and, COD versus Battlefield. I mean, I feel like they're the same, but they're competitive. They're competing.
Look, they're both MOBAs, multiplayer online battle arenas. And look, I really liked Dota when it came out, but I hate to say it, League of Legends is more popular than Dota.
They both have still massive followings, but all I hear about is League now.
Yeah, between League of Legends, Arcane, all the concerts that League of Legends does, all the music that comes out of it, League of Legends is not a ridiculous ripoff. It is a better game. It is a more popular IP, I should say.
Gotcha.
It's the same game, but it's a more popular IP.
Yeah.
And I think that has to stem with more attractive characters.
A lot more color.
Way more color.
Yeah.
The art direction in League of Legends is better than the art direction of Dota. Yeah. But I mean, look, Dota was a user created mod. It just became a thing.
Yeah.
League of Legends definitely ripped it off, but they did it in a way that turned out to be better for them.
What? And now spinning off a little bit, what game, I forget which one, was like actually a community made game that got big? Was it Quake or was it Unreal Arena? Or was it the Unreal Tournament? I forget which one, but one of them was more of a community made game originally it stemmed from one or the other and then just became this ginormous thing. I may be wrong about this, and that's fine. But I feel like I heard somewhere where Quake was it was either Quake or the Unreal Tournament was actually just like originally created as a mod off of one of them and ended up becoming this crazy big thing.
So Quake definitely came out first.
Okay.
Because I think Quake 3 was where Unreal Tournament hit the scene.
Okay.
And it was about 1999, I believe.
Yep.
So yeah, Unreal Tournament, I guess, was a quote unquote ripoff of Quake.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're all ripoffs of
something
Doom.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
There's always.
But that's the thing. It's like using ripoff as like it's not a derogatory thing.
No.
It's as this list has showed. It's just you've taken inspiration from it.
Yeah.
Just ripoff is easier to say, I guess.
Now, better than the original being Miss Pac-Man versus Crazy Otto. I never played Crazy Otto. Have you? I just don't understand how Pac-Man can be a ripoff to.
So Crazy Otto, it was a modded version of Pac-Man. It sped everything up and, it changed the sprites a bit. What a lot of people don't know is that when Pac-Man originally came out, there were so many different Pac-Man clones at the time.
Oh, yeah.
There were so many. And Pac-Man was trying to come out on absolutely everything. So Crazy Otto they call it a modded version of Pac-Man. It's a different game. It's not made by Midway. It was made by a completely different. This was back when people would just be in their basement making video games. So Ms. Pac-Man, they ended up buying the rights to it. They fixed everything up a bit. This is a weird comparison. I can't say. I guess in Star Power it would be better because nobody's heard of Crazy Otto. But look, it's Pac-Man. Pac-Man's Pac-Man. That's like saying that there's better versions of Pong, which I mean there are, but who cares?
Number 7, I don't really agree with that Dante's Inferno being a ripoff of God of War.
It is in the sense that it's a hack and slash action game, but it's the same thing as God of War being a ripoff of Devil May Cry.
But the statement that's made in this is that the lore is too similar. I'm sorry, Dante's Inferno is based off a biblical sense, while God of War is based off of a Norse sense.
So God of War originally was Greek. But Dante's Inferno is a play on the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri.
Yeah.
Alighieri? Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce his name. But it just takes that and it just cranks it up to 11. Look, Dante's Inferno was an incredible game.
It was, and I understand that the combat might have been similar and stuff like that, but saying that the lore was similar?
Yeah, that's
a stretch.
That's a dumb comparison.
Yeah, because I mean, you're basing it off of a Christian or Catholic theology versus a Greek or Norse theology, and the lore was not the same at all.
Yeah, it's the same as you're walking around through the underworld, because you're going through hell.
Yeah, and so no, I don't think I can agree with that one. Now the next one, number 6, we're almost in our top 5.
Yep.
Better than the original Guitar Hero versus Guitar Freak. I can't recall ever hearing about Guitar Freak.
So yeah, it was Guitar Freak was a you wouldn't have heard of it. It's
Gotcha.
Old, very very old. It's not. It wasn't great. Guitar Hero took that and pushed everything forward. It was a rhythm arcade game in the same sense that Dance Dance Revolution was a rhythm arcade game.
So you gained inspiration from something that you enjoyed and you just made it better.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, going to number 5, a ridiculous ripoff of Street Fighter the movie and Mortal Kombat. It ripped off Mortal Kombat.
This person needs to stop talking about fighting games. This is the dumbest one so far.
Being your prior comments, I have a feeling I know what you're gonna say.
Street Fighter the movie is a ripoff of Street Fighter the game. And look, here's all you have to know is that Street Fighter the movie the game was a video game based off of a movie based off of a video game. The video game original
Street Fighterception.
The original video game was and still is incredible. The movie the movie based off of that game was not. The game based off that movie based off that game was somehow worse. It's dumb. The movie's bad. the game is bad, but to call Street Fighter the movie the game a Mortal Kombat ripoff? What?
Isn't Mortal Kombat in general a ripoff of Street Fighter?
It's not really, because I think the only thing that I could think of is because the models for Street Fighter the movie the game are rotoscoped people in the same way that the early Mortal Kombat was rotoscoped people in costume. If that's what they're basing it off of, fine. But like, it's just a shitty fighting game. That's all it is.
And now number 4, better than the original Streets of Rage 2 versus Double Dragon. Now, I never played Double Dragon, but I will say Streets of Rage 2 was a great game.
So this one I will actually agree with, but also there's a caveat to this. Streets of Rage 2 came out years after Double Dragon.
Yeah.
Double Dragon was the first one to have actually it wasn't. It was the second, but more popular one to do the side-scrolling beat-em-up thing. But Streets of Rage 2 was just fantastic. This was such a great game. Double Dragon did it first. Streets of Rage did it better.
Okay. Yeah, I would find it more so to say that like Streets of Rage 2, like their, I don't know, you say original IP or whatever, but like the ridiculous ripoff of Streets of Rage would be Fighter's History. I think that would be more palpable because they're both beat 'em ups.
Yeah, I agree. We have reached top 3 of this article.
I hate the term ridiculous ripoff for this one.
But it also fits.
But it does because the game became ridiculous. But our ridiculous ripoff going into our number 3 is Saints Row being the ridiculous ripoff to Grand Theft Auto. Now, I do agree in some way that Saints Row took heavy inspiration.
Extremely.
But different creative directions.
Yes.
And I think that like Saints Row was better than the Grand Theft Auto games in general? No, not really. But do I think that they were the same games? No, not at all. Because like Saints Row to me reminds me, if you were playing the Incredible Hulk game from like 2003 where you could pick up and throw everything. You remember that game?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So imagine that, but you can fit into a tank. You can fit into a car. You can, and there was gangs. Like it was so just ridiculous. And so like the game was literally revolved around physics because blowing, shit up and throwing things and making things crazy. But also you had the storyline that was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it was like if Seth MacFarlane made Grand Theft Auto. Like that's what it kind of felt like to me.
It was definitely a goofy, like the first one took itself way too seriously.
The
first one, I think, was straight up a Grand Theft Auto ripoff.
Okay.
So if we're just going to leave it at the first one, then I'll agree with.
Okay.
However, starting with the second one,
yeah,
that's where Saints Row figured out what Saints Row was.
Oh yeah.
From having insurance fraud missions to having a mission where you have to get a giant poop truck and spray an entire neighborhood with shit.
Yeah.
Like Saints Row is Grand Theft Auto but funny. And like Grand Theft Auto 5, Trevor, everybody's like, "Oh, Trevor's so funny, haha." Like, yeah, Trevor's great, whatever. But Saints Row, every character is funny in different ways.
And also, if you're comparing Saints Row 2 and GTA 4 are around the same time.
Around there.
And, you had that funny, like, you break the ice kind of stupid physics, like, and also I felt like playing with your friends on the open world maps of Saints Row was a lot funnier and a lot more to do in comparison to, like, GTA 4. I also think that Saints Row 2, to this day, has one of the best, like, vehicle customizations of all time. Like, you could customize anything. You could bring a semi into a garage and customize it. You could bring a bus into it. You could do, like, every little nuancy thing you could think of to a vehicle. And I think they had a lot better vehicle customizations in the Saints Row. But also, at the time, it was almost like, flipping a coin because you had Saints Row 2, which is a very comedic, very, break, the whole seriousness. And then if you actually play the storyline of GTA 4, it is one of the most serious games. It is a very dark game. It's very serious, and it'll actually leave you emotionally attached to characters.
Yes.
But then you play Saints Row 2, and you're like, damn, that was funny.
Yeah. And then Saints Row 3, which is my personal favorite Saints Row, just cranked the funny up to 11.
Yeah, you had the weapons like the Penetrator.
Well, Saints Row 2 had that too. And although I also think that started with San Andreas.
And I will say that I felt like the gameplay, the gunplay, and a lot of that, especially from Saints Row 1 and 2, took a lot of inspiration from San Andreas.
So, yes, but I think that Saints Row 3 had much better gunplay than Grand Theft Auto until Grand Theft Auto 5, which fixed their... Yeah. Because for the longest time, Grand Theft Auto had the dumbest aiming system.
They did. And also, but all the driving physics that you hated in, like, GTA 4, I feel like is in every Saints Row game I've ever played.
So, no, I feel like Saints Row had better driving physics than GTA 4, or maybe it felt that way because the roads were more open. You noticed it a bit less.
Yeah.
Because Liberty City in Grand Theft Auto 4 is very tight, very angular,
very grid.
Saints Row 2 was actually pretty open, and then Saints Row 3 kind of had that very cartoony, like your car was wild in Saints Row 3, almost to the same, not quite, but almost to the same level as Grand Theft Auto 5.
But then once we get into the later installments of Saints Row, I lost interest.
4 was fun but dumb.
Yeah,
and then
the new one is just
the new one doesn't exist. The new one closed down a company.
Now, number 2 on our list, Dave.
Pong versus Ping Pong. Look, I literally called this out earlier. Like, it's Pong.
I could say that Pong is a ripoff of ping pong on a table.
And look, Pong is a ripoff of Tennis for Two. Pong is Pong. What is wrong with this? This is somebody who is like, I'm gonna do 15 things that are better and 15 things that are worse, and then they ran out of ideas and they had to throw ideas in there. Bad. What's wrong with you?
Now, our number 1 on the list with drumroll. Ridiculous ripoff. PlayStation All-Stars versus Super Smash Bros.
Super Smash
Bros. But Super Smash Bros. Melee. Now, Super Smash Bros. Melee was one of my favorite Smash Bros. Of all time.
Yes.
I haven't even played the other one, and I'm just gonna say yes.
Okay, so I play them both. Look, yes, it is a ripoff of Super Smash Bros. You don't have to specify Melee. It's Super Smash Bros. is Super Smash Bros.
Yeah.
But PlayStation All-Stars, yes, 100%. And here's the problem with PlayStation All-Stars. Number 1, in order to defeat an opponent, you have to build up a meter and then use a finishing move on them, and they blow up. And you have to reach a certain number of points. You have several levels of finishing move, level 1, level 2, level 3, and based on which one you use, you gain more points. Versus Super Smash Bros., where you just knock somebody off of a ledge, and they fall, and they go bye-bye. Look, PlayStation All-Stars should have just ripped off Super Smash Bros. But they tried to be different.
Gotcha.
And they had all of these characters that could have been great for it, but you were missing everybody. First off, you picked DMC Dante instead of regular Dante, which, why? You had Cole from Infamous. That was a good pick. You had Raiden from Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. That's fine. I believe Kratos and Zeus were in it. You had the girl from Heavenly Sword or Heavenly Blade, I forget what the hell it's called, but you didn't have Crash Bandicoot, you didn't have Spyro.
Yeah,
they were talking. There's a model for Dart from Legend of Dragoon, and he was fully modeled and animated and ready to go, and they dropped the ball. They canceled the game before his DLC came out. You had all of these great characters, but you marred up with stupid gameplay decisions and maps that just didn't fit or the gameplay that you were trying to do. The maps in the game would have worked if it just straight up ripped off Super Smash Bros. And this could have been because they were afraid that Nintendo would sue them.
Yep.
This could have been, well, let's make ours a bit different. There's a whole lot of really dumb business decision for it. But if you compare this to, say, the Nickelodeon battle game, where it's Super Smash Bros. But with Nickelodeon characters, it's Super Smash Bros. With Nickelodeon characters.
Yeah.
If you compare this to Multiverses, like, it's still on the bottom. There's not a single fighter like this that this game wins at. And it's unfortunate because this, for being called PlayStation All-Stars, there weren't
any All-Stars.
I don't even remember. You might have had Sly Cooper and you might have had Ratchet.
Gotcha.
But like Kratos, I think, was the only one that was legitimately a PlayStation All-Star. I think Nathan Drake was in it.
Oh, okay.
But like, it was bad.
Okay.
It was bad. I agree. This is the number 1 worst ripoff. Your list was not great, but this I agree with.
Now, if you had to make a comparison to round out what game that you think ripped off another game, it just like make your own.
Like a good ripoff?
It can be a good or it can be a bad.
All right. For a good ripoff, I've mentioned it before. I constantly sing the praises of this game. Stardew Valley.
Okay.
Completely ripped off Harvest Moon and Rune Factory. those types of games, but it did so with love, and it shows.
Okay.
It is calling it a ripoff is a terrible disservice because it's just an homage, and it's a love letter to those games.
Gotcha.
What about you?
I don't know if I really have a good one, but on your favorite subject of doing, ripoff and like fighting games.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm only comparing these two because you could argue Street Fighter, you could argue a bunch of them, but I think Virtua Fighter ripped off Mortal Kombat. Only because you had Sega, who I believe made Virtua Kombat, and then you had
Virtua Kombat?
It is Virtua, actually. Without the L, it is.
Yeah, but you called it Virtua Kombat, not Virtua
Oh,
Fighter.
Virtua Fighter. Sorry. Okay. Anyways, you have Virtua Fighter made by Sega,
Yep.
and then you had Mortal Kombat made by Midway.
Mm-hmm.
One was made 1992, one was made 1993, and they were like direct competitors. But when you looked at Virtua Fighter, it even on an arcade system, it was the same.
So I will disagree only on the sense that Virtua Fighter was 3D from the get-go, and it was not as violent. Mortal Kombat's whole thing was
okay.
the over-the-top violence.
Gotcha.
Now, if you wanted to compare, say, Virtua Fighter to, I guess,
Street
Fighter, that one might be a bit closer, but
Gotcha.
I think it was enough to differentiate itself. Now, I think the best one would be Virtua Fighter and Tekken.
Okay. Yeah.
Because they both were 3D when they first started. I believe Virtua Fighter came out first. Tekken was way better.
I happened to come across one that somebody said Soul Calibur ripped off Mortal Kombat, and I don't know how I feel about that.
Again, I don't agree with that because yes, Soul Calibur. Well, that's the other thing. It's like Soul Calibur, despite using blades and weapons and shit like that, is less violent than Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Well, Mortal Kombat, that's what the whole premise was.
Yeah.
Violence.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat's just a violent game. Now, that'd be like saying Balls was a ripoff of Street Fighter.
My favorite ripoff though of all time, and just spanning beyond like video games, is Spaceballs in
Versus
Star Wars. Yeah, that's my favorite ripoff. That's the best ripoff. That would be a good ripoff for me. It's Spaceballs versus Star Wars, because I love Pizza the Hut.
Let's get rid of video games in general. Just go right to movies.
There has been a lot of those types of ripoff. Now, is it a ripoff? No, it's a parody.
Yeah.
Just to make it clear,
Yeah.
parody. But at the same time, if we're doing the heart of this, then it's
Yeah, because a lot of these weren't. I don't know. Ripoff is a tough word.
It is, because like so many inspirations to make games just better than their predecessor.
Yeah, I think out of all of these, there's only two that I would call ripoff.
Which would be number one.
Number one,
Yeah.
and where was it? Number 13, the Final
13.
Combat, the Team Fortress ripoff.
Yeah.
Those are the only two that I would call
Well,
ripoff.
I would also agree with the Nova and Halo. Although Nova was only a mobile game, so it's not 100%, but it is.
Yeah,
It's if you look at it, it's freaking Halo.
It's still a ripoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
The rest of these were I mean, maybe Garfield. I don't know.
I remember way before we were to have this conversation, I also did see, just like the Soul Calibur one, like a ridiculous one, that Destiny was a ripoff Halo without the knowledge, I guess, that Bungie,
made both of them?
Made both of them.
Yeah.
Like, and I was just like, no.
Yeah.
No. Bungie took what they did best, which was sci-fi, and turned it into something.
Yep.
And they went their own creative direction with it.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day,
inspirations and ripoffs are completely different.
Yeah, two totally different things. That being said, let us know in the comments, what are some ripoffs or inspirations? What are your favorite ripoffs versus inspirations?
Or if we didn't mention any,
Yeah.
and you have a comparison, this game to that game, this movie to that movie, let us know.
Do you agree with us? Do you think that I am too easygoing on fighting games? What, like,
I don't think you're too easygoing. Me personally, I just think that if you have the same idea and the same concept for a type of game, you can't call it a ripoff every time it comes out.
yeah, exactly. I
So,
agree. Yeah, that's like every platformer being a ripoff of Mario.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all right, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you guys later.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.